Do you ever find yourself wishing that things were different in your life? Maybe your business were performing better, your relationships were more solid, your health was in a better state. And yet, despite your best efforts, things just seem to maddeningly stay the same. Well, if that's the case for you, in this video, you're going to learn two essential emotional skills that are prerequisites for reinventing yourself. Because the truth of the matter is, a great deal can change, but most people will obsess over how to make things change, and they will totally fail to consider the flip side of the coin, which is how things persist. And until we recognize that persistence and change are two sides of the same coin, we will continue to fixate on one half of the situation and fail to consider what it is that is preventing the change from taking place in the first place. So let's take a look at the first of these skills. The first skill for successful reinvention of yourself is opening yourself to the pain of genuine grief. Now, I know that that is a tough sell. Pain, ugh, we don't like it. But let's take into consideration the alternative. If we do not open ourselves to feel the pain of genuine grief, we carry around this crushing, heavy, sluggish kind of burden. Everything just feels weighty. And that is the burden of unresolved grief. Now, if you take that weight and you turn it into a blade, it will cut you and you will hurt. However, in the aftermath of that, genuine healing can take place. Now, this is what will make or break most therapeutic endeavors, is whether or not the person is willing to confront the pain of persistence. That is to say, that the habits with which you've come to identify yourself, the familiar ways of thinking and feeling and acting that at some point in the past may have been useful, they have a cost currently. And generally speaking, if we're unwilling to acknowledge the pain of what these things have cost us, then there's frankly no hope of actually making a change in our lives. So we could at least let ourselves off the hook. It's like, if you want to stay numb, don't then add the frustration and the guilt of not changing, just stay numb. But if you don't want to stay numb, if you actually want to embark on a change in your life, it's essential to connect with the pain of genuine grief. Because grief, the signal value of it is that it lets us know that we have lost something of value, which is to say, it's essential for the organization of our value hierarchy in life that we recognize when we have lost something of value. If we are unaware of when we've lost that something that we value, if we're unaware of the experience of genuine grief, well, how do we really know whether or not we're on the right track? How do we really know whether or not the things we care about are in jeopardy? This is the essential value of connecting with our embodied emotional experience. Our emotions tell us what matters and in what way it matters and to what degree it matters. They are the fundamental compass, and grief, sadness, this lets us know that we have lost something of tremendous value. Now, I will often be able to tell the moment when a therapy begins to become successful, when a person can recognize something to the effect of, oh my God, I've wasted years doing this. And that's a painful thing to recognize. When you can begin to observe that you have spent, oh, it hurts even to say it. When you begin to recognize how many months, how many years, how many decades, perhaps, you've given to a way of being that is out of alignment with what you genuinely value at this point, oh, that is a painful moment. But that is the moment when this crushing burden, this weight, becomes a blade. And you feel the cut of it in that moment. You feel the pain of that, and the tears will flow. That, however, lets you know perhaps what you've lost, which is what you value, which is your life. If you can acknowledge the pain of having given so many years of your life to these ways of thinking and feeling and acting that are not working for you, well, then perhaps you recognize the tremendous value of your life. And you recognize that your life is finite. And then maybe you have the motivation to actually go out and give a damn about creating a change. So that's one of the ways we might grieve, is recognizing the cost of our habitual ways of being, the cost of our defenses against reality, let's say, accurate perception of reality. So we recognize that, oh boy, we have lost something irreplaceable, which is months, years, decades of our lives. The second thing that we might grieve, if we genuinely want to go through a process of reinvention, is grieving the loss of this familiar way of being. Yes, it was costly. Yes, you sacrificed years of your life to that way of being, those ways of thinking and feeling and acting. However, there was something of value in that as well. It was of great use in some context, some place, and some time. This familiar way of being was very important. And look, genuine grief is how we do right by the dead. It's how we pay our respects, so to speak. And you are, in this process of reinvention, you are likely going to kill off a familiar way of being. You are going to now sacrifice this habitual you that you've come to know. Instead of sacrificing more of your life to it, you're going to sacrifice it to the potential that could yet be. And if you don't feel grief for that, if you don't feel sad at letting go of the familiar, then I wonder if you really have a sense of what you value in your life. So, uh, grief is a hard one. Most of us, we don't have a lot of experience working through a genuine grief. Most of us feel some sense of guilt. We're afraid to wallow in our grief. We're afraid that if we feel any of it, it's just going to drown us. And I suspect that that's because culturally, grief is, it's messy. Oh, take a tissue, take a Kleenex. Ooh, we don't want to deal with that. And look, this finds its roots in some ways in the fact that grief is anti-capitalist. Like it's non-productive economically to go into our grief. And so many of us will say, well, I don't want to just wallow in my grief because I've got things to do. I've got, productions to produce. And we'll keep ourselves mostly impotent that way. If we're unwilling to connect with the immensity and the intensity of our emotional experience, we are disconnected from our animal vitality. We are actually able to produce less in the long run that way. Because inevitably, we're going to burn out if we don't feel these things and act in accordance with those feelings. So I'll suggest that the first of these emotional skills is opening yourself to genuine grief, recognizing the pain both of all of the life that you have sacrificed to this way of being that no longer works, and beginning to grieve the death of that way of being and allowing something new to take its place. Now, this something new brings us to the second skill. So opening yourself to the genuine grief is the first. The second of these is mustering your curiosity at the edge of the unknown. And here's why. If you want something better than you've ever known or experienced before in your life, you're going to have to go beyond the limits of what you've known and experienced in your life. And it is a universal human tendency to experience some nervousness, some apprehension at the edge of the unknown. And here's why. The unknown, if we consider that a big blanket umbrella, It contains all of the good that we've not yet experienced, sure, as well as all of the bad that we've not yet experienced. And maybe I'm not alone in having having those times in life where you think, oh shit, I thought it couldn't get any worse. And then there's another level of hell. I just discovered it gets worse. So so the unknown contains all of the bad that we haven't yet experienced, like, oh, not only can you have your heart broken, you can be homeless too. Whoa, that's pretty bad. Oh, not only that, and then you can get sick too. Oh, that's pretty bad. So things can get way worse, or things can get way better. So I say that just so we can have a realistic relationship with the unknown. It can be quite risky. It can also have tremendous reward. And so, again, there is normal nervousness when we encounter the unknown. Some apprehension is quite adaptive, actually, because you don't want to rush in like an idiot uh, into a risky situation. However, if we let that fear govern our actions, we'll never take the steps needed to explore the unknown and avail ourselves of all the good that we haven't yet experienced. So, when you find that nervousness at the edge of the unknown, it is so helpful to begin to mobilize curiosity in this case. And this mobilization of curiosity, so this is the second key skill for this process of reinvention. This is, in a way, it's a bit like a stance we take in life. It's the difference between asking, "Oh God, what's gonna happen next?" to, "Oh God, what is gonna happen next?" Same words, different intonation, different attitude. So if you find this nervousness, if you find that you are faced with the unknown of what could be, maybe everything you've known up until now is collapsed all around you, it's no longer working, it's just it can't continue. You then have this journey of figuring out, ooh, what happens next? I have spent almost a decade in my career really working with the question, what do you do when you don't know what to do? Everything you've known to do has led to this point. And if this point is no longer satisfactory, then everything you've known how to do kind of goes out the window. So maybe you don't know what to do right now. The important question is, what do you do when you do not know what to do? You could let anxiety just keep you playing safe and playing small and shrink wrap into yourself. Or bit by bit, you can muster up this curiosity to explore the unknown. Cautious exploration is such an underrated value. And frankly, this is built into us. This is part of what we are as living animals. You see that just about every animal, mammals in particular, will engage in this exploratory behavior when they're brought into a new environment. For example, rodent studies. You drop a mouse in a new environment, it's going to hide for a bit just to make sure that it's not dead. But then when it recognizes it's not dead, it pokes its nose out and it'll go exploring in different places until it finds a threat and then will scurry back. Now, when it finds a threat, it doesn't cease exploring. It just doesn't go poking its nose into that threat, but it continues to explore. And when we can muster up our curiosity to explore the unknown, this is how we become adaptive. Many people, when they cease exploring, they begin dying. They become rigid and crusty, and eventually things fall apart in their lives. We must voluntarily confront the unknown, because here's the thing, the unknown is always going to find its way to us. And it is a very different experience if you voluntarily approach a potential threat than having a potential threat approach you. In one of these cases, you're a predator. You are voluntarily approaching this thing. In the other of these cases, you're prey. And that is not how you want to be. Well, maybe that is how you want to be. I don't know how you want to be. That's not how I want to be. I wouldn't recommend that that's how you go about being, but be prey if you want to be prey. So, mustering up this curiosity, beginning to explore the unknown, taking little risks and reflecting. How did that go? Taking another little risk and reflecting. How did that go? This is essential if you want to experience something better than you've ever known, is beginning to go beyond the edge you've known. So, mustering up this curiosity is one skill. Beginning to feel the pain of genuine grief is another skill. If you can grieve what you are saying goodbye to, do right by it. I mean, really, like, have a ceremony, make a ritual, do whatever you need to do to feel the pain of this, send it on its way. And then, once you've unburdened yourself of all that weight and gotten the energy and the information that lets you know what you value moving forward, then you can begin to explore these different ways to move toward what you value, which is, I don't know what, a fulfilling life, a life of adventure, a life of love, a life of contribution, recognizing the pain of what you've lost, which is perhaps peace of mind and quality of relationships and contribution and profit and security. Maybe you've lost all of that over the years through your continued investment in shit that isn't working. So feel the pain of that. It's only through the pain of that that we begin to recognize, whoa, wait a minute. It really matters to me to make a contribution. It really matters to have some adventure, to have love, to have genuine human connection and contribution in my life. Only through grieving and feeling the pain of what we've lost will we connect with what we value. And when we connect with what we value, that can direct our exploration into the unknown. So, hope this is of some use for you. If you have any questions about this, comments on how it goes, feel free to drop those down below. Like, subscribe, do all those YouTube-y things people do. I think that genuinely helps this reach more people, and it'll keep you abreast of when I put out more content as well. So anyway, I appreciate your attention thus far. Again, I hope this is of some use for you, and I can't wait to talk with you again next time.